So it's just crazy to me that we will sit here and defend music as art, but when you break down a lot of the music, especially modern music, like especially in the last couple of years, like it's just like the lyrics, man. If you listen to the lyrics, and you have children singing these lyrics, now you can say, "Oh, First Amendment," and I'm a big. We just had a show about the First Amendment, didn't we? And I'm all about it and stuff like that. But at some point, you have to, if you're freedom is dangerous, so you
Right.
have to be able to put your house in order. Okay.
Yeah.
I 100% respect the shit out of these parents nowadays who don't give their kids cell phones, until they're, to the age where they need one. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're not raising their kids on tablets. They're not just shooing them off to the internet to be indoctrinated by whatever the hell they're going to watch at that time, whether it be on
Right.
YouTube or, be or just on the internet and stuff like that. Because the access that people have nowadays is, we grew into this access.
Right.
We came from no access
Right.
to now we have access,
Right.
which is crazy. And I think it's really comes down to parents and the family unit that needs to take care of it.
Right.
And we talked about that, the family unit has built the world. Okay. And it's only been in the last, we'll say last 10 years that they've waged this war on the family unit. And, anybody who has any sort of value, I'm not going to say morals. I'm not going to say religious. I'm just going to say values in general. All right.
Right.
They wage a war on you. They look at you like you're stupid. Like, I don't let
Yeah.
my kids watch rated R movies because they're 10. Why? They're going to see them anyway. That's a terrible
Right. Right.
mentality
Right.
to have.
Right.
And it's
Right.
not just that. And like I said, every situation is different. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
So
I saw my mom took me to see Saving Private Ryan when I was 11. Super
right.
rated R movie,
Right.
but it had a point to it.
Right.
You
It was a
know,
reason.
um, there was a point to why she allowed me to watch that.
Right.
You know what she didn't take me to watch? She didn't take me to watch like Cruel Intentions, where
Right.
everybody's just having
Right.
sex
Right.
with everybody,
Right.
Um, so I think it really
See,
does.
see, I think,
It comes
man,
down to that.
see what trips me out though is the fact that I was like, you mentioned something about the kids having cell phones early and stuff like that. And it's funny because, one of the biggest arguments is that, like they get the kids a cell phone because the world is crazy out here. They'll say stuff like, man, this world is crazy. My kids need to be able to get in touch with me at all times. They need to be able to reach out to me, all that kind of stuff. And so in that end, it makes sense. But then at the same time, we say that, but then we turn around and act like this whole like we acknowledge the fact that the world is crazy, kids are getting snatched, that stuff is real, but then we like all of a sudden get foggy in the brain when it's actually put in front of our face with Sound of Freedom, or when we get put in front of our face with our favorite celebrities or our favorite organizations and all that kind of stuff. We act like, well, I mean, that's not my kid getting stolen or whatever. We act like it's not actually that big of a deal, even though you just told me that the reason you have given your 10-year-old a cell phone is because the world is crazy. They need to get in touch with you. It's like we know the issues exist, but we have this antiquated sense of value that, oh, I did my part by getting them a phone. I don't actually have to teach them anything. I don't. You remember how they used to teach like stranger danger and don't the dare program and all that kind of stuff. You notice all that stuff is gone now. They don't even teach those things. They don't even teach the situational awareness stuff anymore in schools. You know what I mean? They don't even teach you to keep an eye open when you're going out with your friends. Always have a backup. Always have somebody who's got your number, knows your location, stuff like that. And to be honest with you, I have a bad habit of that because I roll solo all the time. Like I'm always by myself. I'm always, doing things by myself, going out. And I don't really like telling people my business or where I'm going, right? But, my grandmother brought up a good point the other day. She was like, she was always asking me, like, where am I going? Like I'm 10, you know what I mean? But then I realized, I said, you know what? The world is crazy out here. You know what I mean? And we do need to have somebody to have some kind of accountability to know where we are, to know what we're doing, just in case something goes wrong. And so, one of the things I've been trying to work on is like I'm trying to do better at, telling somebody where I'm going. You know what I mean? And I'm an adult. I'm a trained adult, and I still have to do better. I'm trying to have some type of accountability. So let alone having these kids running around here all crazy. You know what I'm saying? And so we just man, we gotta get on this, bro, because this is a real issue, bro. Like,
No,
this is
we got
a
to do
real
better.
thing.
And here's the thing: it's international at this point.
Right.
Like this, the child trafficking, sex trafficking is 100% international. I don't know if people remember this, but there was years back. I don't remember how many years it was. A whole federal task force came down to New Orleans to cut down on human trafficking, right? Because they knew there was human trafficking. What these guys did was they went onto Bourbon Street and they shut down all the strip clubs because that's where they started looking for human trafficking, not the hundreds of Asian massage parlors every 2 blocks. Where do you think human trafficking is going on? A strip club on Bourbon Street or a random building that suddenly turned into a massage parlor overnight? You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So they came down and they did jack shit. All they did was put a bunch of strippers out of work, and then they protested. So our government doesn't want to fix it. It's up to us to fix it. It's up to the rest of the
Yeah.
world to get on board. Like, first of all, we have to protect our children. Then we need to figure out who's doing it, and we need to take them down. I think we have a pretty good idea of where it's going, who's in charge of this stuff. There's groups everywhere that are trying to just take your kids, and obviously we talked about Epstein Island. Like, obviously they were a big importer of children all the time.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and we're
Epstein
sitting
Island.
here,
Yeah.
yeah, we're sitting here and we're pretending that it's not a problem. But like you said, people are like, oh, my kid has to have a phone because the world's crazy. But it's crazy enough for them to have a phone so they can always text you in case something's wrong. But when someone presents you with an issue, a real issue, we're just going to dismiss it as a hoax,
Right.
as like
Conspiracy.
all the
It's QAnon. It's all of these types of things. It's like, wait, like, are we for real? Like, are we for real? Like, we're.
dogs going
Hold
crazy.
on, hold on 1 second.
Are you about to
There's
get
motion
snatched
at
up?
the door.
Anyway, anybody out there who's still watching, you guys have anything to add about kids and getting snatched up? And do you think it's crazy? Do you think it's real? I don't know. Guess we'll find out. I don't know where Reese went. Maybe the FBI showed up at his door. They're finally going to shut us down, talking shit about the government. You never know. You never know.
All right, sorry about that, guys. Had something going on outside in front of the place, so good old Fido here was getting me good. But yeah, man. One of the things I was just thinking about this as I was walking back, and I don't know where we left. I don't know where you left off, if you were saying something to the people or whatnot. But one of the things that I would like to mention is that we need to also understand that protecting our children is not limited to just sex trafficking. Protecting our children is protecting their minds, protecting their souls, protecting their hearts. When we look at some of the education stuff that's going on, we look at some of the stuff that's going on from a cultural, educational, socio-political, ideological perspective. We got to protect our children across the board. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that was just something I was thinking about. Is like, protecting your children is not simply just keeping them from getting snatched. Like, because here's the thing, say our children may not have, say your child does not get kidnapped, but that doesn't mean their mind has not been kidnapped. That doesn't mean that their soul, their heart, their values, their tradition, all that stuff has not been hijacked. Because the reality is that we know the education system has been hijacked. We
Yeah.
know that the social political system has been hijacked. We know that everything is, nothing is about building your children to be better. And the reality is, it's a lot more work, but the parents need to take responsibility for what their kids learn. I'm gonna tell you right now, although a lot of people have a lot of polarizing thoughts about the whole education system and what they're teaching, what they're not teaching, and there's all kinds of conversations about that. But I'm gonna tell you this: I say that as a parent, I firmly agree that you should definitely have input on what is being taught to your children. I definitely
Yeah.
think that you have to protect your children, not simply just from a, you know, don't talk to strangers perspective, but you also need to teach your children to stand up for what's true and what's right. You know what I mean? You should also teach your children, like, hey, listen, you know what? What are they talking about? Matter of fact, I had a young lady in one of my classes recently, which I thought was very interesting. So we have to do these surveys for one of my programs, and
Uh-huh.
she hadn't turned in her survey, and I said, hey, is everything all right? She says, well, actually, I've been texting my parents because they have a rule that any survey or anything that I fill out at school, they need to be able to review before I turn it in and like do it. That's
Hey,
their
great
rule.
job.
If they want
Yeah.
pictures, they want like screenshots and pictures of everything that they're given to fill out, to survey anything, that they want to review it before they actually get to put it in, or that she can even do it. And I was like, you know what? I can't even be mad at that. Hey, more power to you. I will deal with my company and my corp. I'll deal with my company and tell them, listen, we got a survey that we just not gonna be able to, use, or you're gonna have to talk to the parents. And I think that that's a good thing, and we need to be more involved, man. We need to be more involved in our kids' lives. And I'm not saying we got to be helicopter parents. Where you going? What are you doing? I ain't saying you got to
Yeah.
be all that. But we need to be involved, man. We need to stop letting these iPads and these celebrities and letting these politicians and ideologues and we got to stop letting these people raise our kids. And oh, by the way, that's not just limited to elementary, middle, and high school. You need to be looking at your colleges too. You know what I mean? Stop letting your
Yep.
colleges raise your kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
We So anyway, I think that I highly recommend that everybody goes and sees the movie Sound of Freedom for real. And like I said, if you it's a hard watch. If you have any sense of humanity and passion for children, it's a difficult watch. It's intense. You know what I mean? It is.
Yeah.
It's
But
not a movie you go to have fun or laugh or none of that stuff. It's an intense movie.
like we were
But
talking about it. We were talking about it over here, and a couple of the guys were like, "Man, like it just gets you." And if anybody who's done time in like the Middle East, like they obviously have a different culture over here when it comes
right,
to stuff like that. So it hits a little more. It feels like you were you've kind of witnessed some of it if you were in certain areas of the middle, or like Iraq, especially like in Iraq and stuff like that. Afghanistan's the same way. I won't go into details here,
right,
but just people know.
right,
So and that's such a small scale thing that they do in these small
right,
communities here. And we're sitting here telling you to go watch a movie. Like, this is international. They are snatching kids from all around. Yep, 100%. Afghanistan and Iraq, Chai Boys. I'll leave it at that. You can go Google it if you want to. But we're sitting here talking about an international problem where they're literally taking kids from one country and bringing them to different continents to
right,
act as sex
right,
slaves. There's parts of that movie, man, that just make you. It's gonna churn your
right,
stomach. But I definitely recommend. I recommend you watch it and just know that like what they're showing is such a small part of the bigger problem.
right,
Because if you
right,
go and look up the numbers, they're saying over 1 million children go missing every year from the world. 1 million children. Now, 1 million compared to 8 billion doesn't seem like a lot, but like, how many people aren't being reported? You know what I'm saying? Like,
right,
how many of those are not being
right,
reported?
right.
So I feel I
And
feel
one
like I feel like it's a
child
huge
is too
problem.
many.
One child is too many. Yeah.
Well, it's like
So I go ahead.
I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it reminds me of I don't know if you remember I think it was the Nuremberg trials or whatnot. I remember with the doctor from the camps. What was his name? One of the doctors, I can't remember his name offhand, but he said that he said that he said one death is a tragedy, but 1 million is a statistic.
Hmm.
Like, that's the mindset. Like, I think that's how people look at it. When you say something like, "Oh, 1 million kids go missing," it's just like, "Oh, well, dang, that's crazy." But if it's
Yep.
one kid in your neighborhood, all of a sudden now you like, oh my gosh, that's a tragedy. The truth is that one child is a tragedy and a million children is a travesty. Like, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? Like, no children should be, we should not have to be in a society where we have to worry about children being snatched and taken and for sport or for price or for pleasure, whatever the case is. That's not the society we want to live in. And the reality is that if you watch this movie, I'm not saying you go gear up or go, you know, into the Amazon and got it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying go do that. I'm not saying you go all of a sudden be a vigilante going saving kids from, you know, the board or whatnot. I'm not saying that either. What I'm saying is understand the realities of the world that you live in and teach your children some value. Protect your children. What I'm saying is, if at anything, be appreciative of the world that you live in, and then call things out when you see it. If you see something that's off, man, like, hey, yo, what's up, man? You straight? Everything good? What's going on? You know what I mean? It doesn't hurt to say what's going on. Everybody all right? You know,
that's the thing, man. You know, get involved. And, you know, and the whole thing is like, you know, especially men get scared to be involved because of all the shit you see of people videotaping you, calling you a creep and stuff. Like, I would rather someone videotape me, and while they're videotaping, be like, hey, I saw your kid by himself on aisle 9. I wanted to make sure that he didn't get snatched up like that fucking movie I just watched. All right.
Right.
So if you're his mom, be a better fucking mom and keep your eye on him. You know, put me on camera. I don't care. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, we have to be willing.
The internet forgets because the next day someone else will be on the internet.
Somebody else will be on the thing. At the end of the day, we have to be willing. At the end of the day, man, like I said, we gotta get some intestinal fortitude, bro. Because the reality is that we live in a very broken world, and so we don't have time, space, or we can't afford to be weak. You know what I mean? We have to stand up and be strong for these, because these children cannot fight for themselves, bro. Like that's the reality. Is they can't fight for themselves. Our job is to fight for them. Our job is to protect them, to cover them. Our job is to raise them, to keep them out of, like, that's our job, man. And don't be wrong. You remember, and I mean, in the movie, sometimes, like I said, in the movie, the guy, you know what I mean, the father, he seemed to be a good father. You know what I mean? And he just got caught in a bad situation. But guess what? Even still, what we have to do is to alleviate much of that. We got to vet everything that comes across our kids' eyes, ears, opportunities, whatever the case is. I mean, think about it. They say 60% of the calls you get every year are going to be spam calls. So, you know what I mean? So you got to vet everything that comes across your way. And now with all this AI technology and all this stuff going on, who knows what kind of scandals and schemes are going to come around the way to get children and get, you know, all kinds of debauchery and craziness. So at the end of the day, man, we have to stand up, man. We have to do a better job. We have to get involved. Find your local sex trafficking organization. See what they're talking about, what they're doing. How can I support you? How can I help you? You know what I'm saying? I know I got a young lady I'll be doing an interview with coming up.
Reisman anti-sex trafficking organization. Do not go find your local sex trafficking organization.
Clarify. Yeah. Do not go find the local sex trafficking organization. Find the anti-sex trafficking organization. Yes. Yeah. I know there's an organization down here in Florida. Oh shoot, what's it called? I saw they did a presentation some years ago that I found. But yeah, we gotta find our organizations, man. We gotta find organizations, get involved, even if it's just financial contribution, even if it's just, you know, going to one of the rallies, whatever you can do, man. Reposting it, like, because the reality is that, like, this is a real issue. Like, this is a real issue, and our children need us, man. And imagine if these kids, think about these kids, they find out that 1 million kids go missing, and then find out that you, as their parent or the adults or leadership in your life, don't even do nothing about it. And how does that make them feel?
Yeah.
Think about that. If I know that people my age are getting caught up in all this, and my parents don't even talk about it. My parents don't even say nothing. They didn't even mention to me that this happens. I didn't even know this was going on. Can you imagine that? Yeah, I mean, can you imagine? Yeah. That, you know, being a child, finding out that, oh, how about one of your friends get snatched up, and it's like, oh, that's too bad for them. That's too bad for little Jimmy. That's too bad for Jesse. You heard about so-and-so's daughter went missing? Ah, that's unfortunate. What? You know what I mean? As long as you're good. It's like we cannot be so selfish as to say that this is only an issue that affects. And once again, and you mentioned it earlier, this ain't just a overseas, third world country, south of the border, Middle East issue. This is a
No, they're
real
doing it
issue in the
right there
U.S.
in the United States. There's
Shoot, in
actually
my city's
in yeah,
one of the biggest outlets.
New Orleans, man. Yeah, no. They actually had a few kids go missing in the area that I work in as a paramedic when I go back home, Oswego. It's like 3 kids went missing from a playground. I'm like, how did 3 kids go missing from a playground? Like, is nobody watching these kids at the playground? You know, where is everybody? Like,
Right.
where are the adults in these kids' lives?
Right.
At
The
at a
adults are
certain,
too busy. The adults are too busy on Instagram, or the adults are too busy
yeah.
ignoring it or turning a blind eye. You know, the adults are too busy saying, "Well, that's not my kid, so it don't matter." It does
I'm
matter.
and I'm gonna say it again because I want everybody to hear it, man. You don't get a pass when it comes to kids. I don't care who it is. You know, this for me. This goes way beyond political affiliation, religious affiliation, any type of ideology. It doesn't matter. Human beings are messy and with so much potential for evil. Nobody gets a pass. There's nothing you can say to me that will justify hurting a child. Like there's nothing. You can't do it. You can't find a reason or a justification. Be like, oh well, 250 years ago, it wasn't anything for a 35-year-old man to marry a 12-year-old. You know what? I kind of feel like it was still wrong back then. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
We did
It's just that.
maybe we just didn't know any better.
Right.
And I do understand, and I remember pedophiles had used this as an argument because they did used to get married very young back then because obviously the lifespan was a lot shorter, right? And I get it, population wise, stuff like that. It's such a small, and it wasn't really until the modern age where we started to have like ages of consent and stuff like that, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? That we really didn't start looking at that until now. And that's something we need to look into our state laws too. If you look at some
Right.
of the countries, they still have low ages of consent in some
Right.
of the states.
Right.
I think one of the lowest ones I think is 15 or 14 or
Yeah.
15 still.
Well,
I don't remember.
this is big. You know, this is big movement, and like I said, people may feel some kind of way about this, but there's a big movement right now that's gaining momentum, and that's changing, getting rid of the word pedophile and taking away the word pedophile. That's no longer that they're trying to get rid of that, and they're trying to implement a system to where they no longer have to register, in the areas and other kind of things. And there's another movement that's gaining momentum that's talking about they're renaming it an actual sexual orientation, and they're calling it
Yes.
minor attracted people.
Great.
Um,
Yeah.
and they're vying for rights, just like LGBT and all that. Like it would fall in those same categories where it's minor attracted people, and that's something that like we need to be aware of because
We
should something like go ahead.
I had that exact conversation, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, because I've been reading some material on like the whole transgender movement. And I'm going to tie it in a second, right? About the transgender movement and, where multiple genders started popping up several years ago and sexual orientation and gender fluidity and all that. And I remember seeing a video. It was a woman giving, I can't remember if it was a I'm going to use the word TED Talk, but I don't think it actually was a
Right.
TED Talk. But she was sitting there explaining how pedophilia is a sexual orientation and that it should fall more under the category of a mental disorder than of a crime. And I remember seeing that. I remember talking to the girl I was dating at the time about it, and I was like, "This is very dangerous because once you open the floodgates, once you start allowing people to marry inanimate objects like tables and lamps and stuff like that, it's only a matter of time before predators take advantage of that."
Right.
And I remember having the same conversation. I want to say it was back during COVID in 2020. I remember having
Right.
that conversation. I was like, we are going to see the rise of these weird, I had no idea what it was going to turn into. But I was like, if something bad's going to happen, and that is the consequence of an ultra, allowing everybody the way they feel and think to just come out. You actually have a movement to justify pedophilia. Dude, think about that that's fucking nuts. That's
Right.
crazy. That we've come to the point in
Yeah.
society where
It's
we're just gonna like,
yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
murder is just
It's
how I feel. Like it's a big
right.
murder
Right.
okay now.
Right. Like who's
So
to say? I mean, who is the thing about it is, and I get it. Like everybody has their different, feelings and all that kind of stuff. But I think the challenge becomes, where's the limit? Where do you draw the line?
yeah,
Because once you open the door to say that because once you open the door to say that what I feel is true, well, now my feelings shift and change, and there's no bound. My feelings are all limited by my imagination. So I mean, you're talking about it could go as far as, I mean, like I said, we talked about this before. How you got kids identifying as cats. You know what I mean? Like that's a real thing. And so when we're talking about these kids, man, and this sexual orientation thing, and we're applying those two. Okay, say we accept it. Okay, this is a mental disorder. Okay, as a mental disorder, then what? You should be in some type of facility. You see what I'm saying? Like, a mental disorder requires some type of facility. It requires therapy. It requires going to, being legally bound to go to some type of therapy, to have to go to this treatment, to have to go through this, to be able to keep you from acting on this impulse. I mean, the reality is this, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna be real with you, man. Like I said, and don't get me wrong. Like I said, I love God, and I try to represent Christ the best that I can. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if no matter what you like, what you got going on up here, if you try to come in and try to, get one of these little girls, or come after, one of these little sisters or brothers, or, you know what I mean? Like, we're gonna have a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like,
100%.
like we always talk about, we had to lay some holy hands. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Because we have to protect these kids. You know what I mean? We can't chalk it up to, oh well, it's just somebody's a different way of life. No, it's not. That's not okay.
The hell is
Like,
it, man? The hell it is,
children are off limits. As adults, do what you want to do. Children are
100%.
off limits. And I agree with you, man. There's no justification.
I've always said that children are the last innocent people, and or up to a certain extent, because I met some 10-year-olds that, like,
You want to punch them in the face? I know.
I just want to punch them in the face, man. But for the most part, children are innocent, because a lot of times they don't know any better.
Right.
Especially below that 10-year-old range. 7-year-old kids don't have a comprehension of the world around them like adults do. So for someone to sit there and say that it's okay, that I'm a minor attracted person, that I can just, that 7-year-old looks attractive to me, and they like me back. They don't fucking know.
Right.
They don't fucking know. That dude. I know you're about to say it again. That nobody, like, dude, we'll say it again. Nobody gets a pass when it comes to children. It goes across any lines, anything you can think of, any line you can think of that could be drawn, goes across all of them. Yeah. Don't get a pass when it comes to kids.
Right.
I'm saying it right. I'm saying it right. I'll go to jail smiling. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll go to jail smiling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, man. And don't get me wrong. And I look at it from a perspective of, like, and this is the hard part, right? So naturally, and I'm gonna be honest, and I have to say this because it's difficult, and it's one of the things that I have to constantly, battle with. But the reality is that from a natural standpoint, I'm like, I agree with you, man. I'm like, listen, castrate, wood chipper, whatever the case is. But I have to also acknowledge the fact, the truth is that I'm constantly challenged with things like this, because I'm called at the same time to forgive. And so I'm in this place of, how do I balance that? You know what I mean? How do I balance that of acknowledging this is wrong, challenging this, but at the same time, then also saying
I think that would make a great topic for another show, is how to balance forgiveness, coming from, obviously you can talk about it from a Christian standpoint. I'll talk about it from an objective, non-religious standpoint, because I think, and we talked about it before, there are some universal values that cross.
Right.
They cross all those boundaries.
You
don't have to read the Bible to be a good person.
Right.
You can still. The 10 Commandments are decent things to live
across the board. Right.
But I think that'd be a great show.
Yeah.
Just, understanding the balance between forgiveness and protection.
Justice, or forgiveness and forgiveness and justice, or whatnot. But anyway, we are at the hour, man. We got to get to going. I know you got to get some rest, man. So, hey, be safe out there. Like I say, like I said, I read the article, so we'll see what goes down. Like I said, be looking out for you. And for all my people out there who are listening, once again, Sound of Freedom, go check it out. We got to protect these kids. Hold your kids tight. You know what I'm saying? Hold them tight, treat them right. So anyway, but man, we got to get out of here, man. It's that time. Get some rest, bro. Catch y'all next time. If you guys got comments or anything, send us a DM and all that. All right. Peace.